If you are looking to hear from one of the lead sled dogs of advanced meta advertising on his entrepreneurial journey, as well as how he would look into the auto industry, you're in the right place. This is Word on the Street. I'm Andrew Street, and I'm joined here by Jon Loomer. He started jonloomer.com in 2011 and then built out his Power Hitters Club in 2014, a private community for people to advance and get to really master the meta platform. He's got a lot of advanced meta advertising topics. He makes his community look good. And I am joined with none other than Jon Loomer today. Jon, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Andrew. Yeah, lead sled dogs. I think that's one of the. I think that's the only time I've ever been called a lead sled dog. I like it.
I don't know. I think it's the one that picks the direction that the sled goes in. I've never actually been on a sled with dogs, but I think the front one's the best dog.
I mean, it's the right time of year to be talking about sled dogs. I don't know. Where are you at? It's freaking cold here right now in Denver.
I'm in Austin. Where are you?
Denver area.
Okay, you're publishing on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, your website. It sounds like TikTok, you've had by far the most growth.
Well, it depends on how you measure it, right? So in terms of follower growth, yeah. I mean, I went from nothing to, I don't know, where I'm like 28,000 or something. So obviously surface level doesn't mean a whole lot, but for someone who never prioritizes building a social media presence, that was pretty amazing to just from publishing a video every day. It grew like that. So that was pretty cool. But to be very clear, I mean, the impact on YouTube, and I didn't notice this at first. I almost quit YouTube because the most recent views on videos were so low. I was like, this is a waste of my time. Like, why? Like, even just spending the 5 minutes to publish it there, it just felt like a waste of my time. But I didn't even realize it till the end of the year. My views were going up every single month. And part of this was the older videos because of search. Right. It's like the more videos you give to YouTube, the more opportunities people have. It's just like, blogging and everything else. More opportunities people have to find you. And so I totally missed that and underappreciated it. So Google, even though I have that's like 19,000 subscribers or something, but a lot of that, I've had that since 2012, the channel. But that grew quite a bit over the last year. Instagram I only use as a ad unit, and that grew by doubled my follower growth. So there's all these things that grew that I wouldn't have necessarily been using if not for the fact that I was just taking these videos that I created in one place and published them to five, 6 different places.
Is all this exposure starting to turn into good business for you?
Yeah. So number one, when you start creating video, the one thing I had to let go of is when you have a blog, it's really easy to measure the impact of that. Right. So, because that's the thing I own. That's where I want people to be ultimately anyway. Where people subscribe to my newsletter, where people buying from me, et cetera, et cetera. It's just really hard to measure that. So all the metrics with video are so surface level. You just have to let go and be okay with that. The alternative is adding a whole bunch of CTAs that are annoying people, and then they stop watching your videos because of that. So I just kind of let go. But I got validation really quickly, not only from people saying, hey, where have you been? It's nice to see you again because of the videos. There's people signing up for one-on-one sessions or my membership and saying, hey, I just want you to know I'm here because of the videos. And I mean, that's the validation I needed. And I get that regularly. So I even have it as part of a questionnaire now. Once they sign up, where did you learn about me? And the most popular answer is Jon's regular videos. So it's just one of those things that as someone who loves measurement like I do, and you're kind of obsessed with the stats, it's really easy to quit something like short form video because you get frustrated with the stats or lack thereof. There's just a certain level of blind faith with the approach. But I could tell you, not only do I feel like it was beneficial for that first year, I also know I'm just kind of scratching the surface. I'm just now realizing the impact that I've had on YouTube, right? As an example, what's going to happen from doing this for another year? And if you kind of listen to stories people tell, like a popular one is Mr. Beast. Like, how long was he creating videos and stuff before he actually took off? It was a long time. The story is generally around 2 to 3 years that to truly gain traction, you know? So I've been doing that for a year. What's going to happen after 2? So I'm kind of excited for those possibilities.
It's commendable, though, to have that consistency and the persistence to do it. Like, it's January and it's easy to start being like, here's my new commitments. They're all healthy and it's drink and it's exercise. And then as soon as you fall off that train for one day, it's easy to be like, oh, then you get this loop of, okay, I dropped that. But
it's interesting that you kind of tie that to like health, because I think that's a common thread. I'm kind of a person of habit, right? And it's one reason why I had to do it every day. It's because I know that as soon as I take a day off, I've got a built-in excuse for the next time where I'm not really feeling up to it, you know?
Well, maybe I don't do it every day. Maybe I do it most of the time.
Exactly. And then you start slacking off more and more. But it's an understanding of that repetition and showing up every day that you know is going to pay off. And each time you don't is a negative. So in terms of health, I have the same approach. So last year I ran 1,200 miles. I was not a runner by any stretch of the imagination like 8 years ago. And then I started a goal of running 400 miles the first year, and I've raised it 100 miles every single year. And in order to do that, you've got to run almost like there was a time I ran almost 100 days in a row, which probably isn't healthy, but I did it. But like you have to run a ton in order to be able to do that, to pull that off. So, but at the same time, that one run in the grand scheme of things is nothing compared to the other, you know, like if I'm going to run 3 miles, well, great. Add that to the other 1,197 I've got to run, right? So it's the kind of same approach where you don't really see it for that one run. You don't see it with that one video. You may feel like garbage for 6 months. And then incrementally you start feeling better, you know? And I think that's the same kind of thing that happened. And the problem is too many people look at health or content creation as something that you should see, if not immediate impact, pretty close to immediate. So 2 weeks, where are my results? A month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, where are my results? It's not really worth it anymore. And they stop or start slowing down, which impacts the results, and then stop. And it's just something I've learned, I think, starting with the blog, that obsessive 600 blog posts in 2 years and the impact that created to help me believe in it. I knew I could apply that similar approach to lots of things. And yeah, that's why I do it.
It sounds like you're good at focusing on like the leading indicators versus the lagging indicators of, I want to get down to 170 pounds and I want to become a millionaire, versus I want to run 3.5 miles a day or whatever the math adds up to. And I'm just going to publish something every day and something's going to happen and it's going to be good.
Yes, that is the key. Again, things that you can control. Right? I can control if I get out of the house or get on my treadmill and run today. I can't control how healthy I'm going to be necessarily after this year, but I know that if I run every day, I give myself a better opportunity to have whatever, you know, whether it's weight or other indicators of health, right? Same thing with the videos. I don't know if I'm going to end up, I can't fully control whether I'm going to have 100,000 followers. Like one of my goals was to be the most followed expert on meta advertising on TikTok. If that is my only goal, that is incredibly frustrating trying to get there, because it's so much of that is outside of my control. That said, if my focus is on celebrating, did I publish today? Did I publish every day this week, this month, this year? I am doing the things that put me in a better opportunity to actually achieve that other goal that is mostly out of my control. You know, same thing with being a millionaire and all these other things. Like, I think you can have that overarching goal of making money and whatnot, but to a point that's in your control, I've just found that it keeps me sane to focus on the actions that I can take that make it likely or more likely to put me in position to achieve those things.
Yeah, just the habits. Have you read the Atomic Habits before?
I need to. People keep talking about it. I feel like it must be consistent with the way I do things. Because
you kind of wrote it already, though.
Well, like little things too, because like I'm speaking at Social Media Marketing World in February. I hadn't spoken anywhere in 4 years. That's one of my goals, but that's also outside of my control. Is getting back out there to public speaking. So one of the reasons I was doing all this was to get noticed again and be asked to speak places. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to speaking there?
Yeah. Look, public speaking is one of those things that always petrified me.
I remember hearing you talk about that a long time ago.
Petrified me. And even like as a kid, I remember I would be shaking while I was talking. And to a point, even when I got on stage, I would be like that for the first couple of minutes, and then I'd get through it. But I definitely got a thrill out of it too, especially like in this world of the internet, where I wouldn't really meet people and then be able to get on stage and then meet everybody afterwards, and like to see the impact of everyone who came to see it. It's an actual thrill. So there's absolute anxiety leading up to it. I love actually doing it, and just the whole experience. So
I can relate. I've done some public speaking where like I sleep poorly the couple nights before. And then when I get on stage, it's just normal. And like what you're talking about too, it's like you've been talking about this since 2011. It's not like you need to learn something that morning or that night. But still, you think like, oh man, I'm going to be exposed as a fraud or whatever.
Well, that's and then, I mean, the anticipation of like, because I'm also, believe it or not, I am a procrastinator. So like when it comes to creating the presentation and slides, like that's one of the biggest things that creates the anxiety. Like I need to create this thing, and then of course I put it off. So I keep thinking about it. I need to apply all these other habits to getting that presentation done, honestly, but.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's easy to put it off and then whip it together at the last minute, and it's really good.
And then it works, and then you're like, you don't learn your lesson.
Tons of time to think about it.
Absolutely. And that's why I kept doing it, is because like, oh, that went great. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I needed one where it's like, that was a complete disaster. What was I doing? I need to prepare ahead of time.
Yeah, do your bombing. Be like, oh man, I can't think of anything right now. I don't. Conversions API. What is, gosh. Well, could I ask you kind of some rapid fire questions, just more granular with Facebook?
We could try.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna okay. So you've gone outside of Meta. You've tested TikTok's ad platform. I know you used to do other stuff with Google and things like that.
A little bit. I'm mainly Meta, truly mainly Meta.
Yeah. I mean, if it works super well and it's got a much bigger reach and more targeting and more measurability, it's hard to break it. You're not running any paid ads on TikTok or on YouTube.
So
pre-roll.
It's funny. I experimented with TikTok, and anyone who hasn't done TikTok, but you've done Meta ads, it's funny. Meta gets a lot of flack for stealing from everybody. TikTok basically stole everything from Meta when it comes to advertising. It's actually called a TikTok Ads Manager. My understanding is a lot of the same people who developed Meta Ads Manager worked on TikTok. So a lot dashboard. Yeah, a lot of the same terminology and just flow, which anyone who's done Google Ads, I know there's some similarities there too. But I think for me, what TikTok ads were like, it's almost the direction we're heading with Meta ads, where it's like it's so streamlined and basic, and you kind of have limited control, but it kind of makes sense because it's just videos, and videos are just a different beast, So I found that it was for the same reason that Meta ads can be problematic. Like it's on the optimization side. If you optimize for things at the top of the funnel, you're just going to get a lot of garbage. And I've found like, unless you're sending people to your website with TikTok ads to sell something, it is just really difficult to refine to get good, solid, say, engagement, followers, whatever, because like all these algorithms do, you want more followers? Here you go. Here are a bunch of followers. They're a bunch of garbage, but yeah, that's what you wanted. Or views, same thing, you know? So that was my impression of TikTok. Then also, right around that time when I was experimenting with it, was when it started looking like it could be banned in the US. So I was like, I don't want to invest a whole lot of money in this if that's a possibility. So I stopped running those ads.
Okay.
I mean, how about you? What have you seen?
They're coming up and looking at Meta and the way that they structured their staffing and their verticals that they're focused on. And they're trying to improve on where Facebook went wrong and have an automotive team, have a travel team. E-com is huge, obviously.
Yeah.
And then come up with products that are similar to Facebook's products, where it's, for us, we get automotive inventory ads that have basically, feeds of inventory that we can publish into their platform and run ads with real-time inventory and SKUs and things like that. Which doesn't feel very social media-y compared to getting influencers to try your products out and things like that, where it kind of TikTok really lends itself, I feel like, a lot better for that.
Right.
For the, getting
so
the
it stands out
marketing
a little bit more in a negative way, whereas it actually could make sense on, Facebook.
But you never saw TikTok as a good source of driving traffic or growing engagement necessarily compared to running them on Meta platforms.
And I wouldn't consider myself a TikTok ads expert because I didn't do it for a really long time. But no, I didn't see it in terms of quality. Basically, I saw it as a way to help me grow in the very early stages when I was speaking into the void otherwise. But I wasn't convinced that any of that early. So that it was like, I probably got 3,000 followers out of it, and I don't know how many views when I had nothing, when I was building from nothing. And I just didn't feel like it impacted me in a positive way. I think where TikTok, I assume TikTok's still this way in terms of driving traffic, because what I always appreciated with Meta ads, and I could read, the pixel activity, it doesn't matter where they came from. So whether it's remarketing or the pixel knowing and starting with this group of people who've been to your website before, it doesn't matter that they came from Meta ads. I mean, that was the whole thing at least were limited to with TikTok ads. The remarketing and everything only was from people who visit your website from TikTok. I assume that's still the case.
I don't know.
That was always to me a huge limitation that made it unfortunate, where I couldn't really do much with it, beyond the kind of surface level stuff that I was doing.
Right. You have to have a large volume of traffic coming from TikTok to your website to be able to justify even turning on a retargeting campaign.
Right. Yep.
So with like the pixel, with Facebook pixel, with attribution and stuff like that, where's your mind right now with conversions API? I've watched videos of yours in the past, third-party products that you've used. We've done a lot of conversions API stuff where it shows maybe 15, 20% more insight than we would be getting. Where are you with using it for, like, especially with me, sort of like real estate with cars? There's no like direct attribution of this person ended up in the shopping cart and then they saw an ad and then they came back to their shopping cart and checked out. Like for measuring that offline attribution.
Well, I think so. The difference is going to be, I think it helps, first of all, if you're mainly mobile in terms of the API. It also helps if, like you're saying, with auto dealerships, you've got an offline element. So then you've got two versions of the API, right? You've got the web API. And for me, I think Meta tells me the percentage increase is something like 3 or 4% as a result of using the web. So it's like you wouldn't, kick that away. Like you still want that, right? Amazingly, a very high percentage of my traffic is still desktop, and I think that's because of the fact that it's office people, largely my audience. But that's really I found it to be a fascinating thing that's still in these days that I'm primarily desktop. But So that's the first thing. Like, and I don't really have an offline element, but if you've got an offline element, I mean, there are a couple of things there. I mean, absolutely should be sending the API so Meta knows that, you say someone bought from you or whatever. But I think the conversion leads optimization is a really good opportunity for anyone who has that offline salesperson part of their funnel, to make sure that not only can you count that, and that's counted in your ads, but Meta knows that it's happened, can optimize for that, as opposed to just optimizing for someone filled out your form and they're a lead now. So that's one of those things that I still scream about it to people who have any kind of offline sales element. Like, make sure to look into this, because if you're not doing that, you're probably getting low quality leads, and you can't really show Meta what a high quality lead is unless you walk them through your funnel, define the funnel for them.
Right. To say, here's everybody, like in this case, that end up in our CRM who actually purchased.
Right.
Now match that back about with who saw the ad, or even like pieces of inventory that were sold that you ran ads on, to attribute that back to what ad sets were good.
Right.
Which is cool, which is still the wildest west that lets us keep testing stuff and keep our jobs.
Yeah. And I think a lot of confusion can be solved when people understand how optimization works. The phrase I like to use is that Meta ads optimization is literal. Okay. So I think one of the assumptions as a marketer is, I need to send more traffic to my website because I've got a 10% conversion rate on this landing page. So if I send 1,000 people here, I'm going to get 100 sales, right? But if you send ads that are optimized for link clicks just for that traffic, you're probably going to get 0 sales. And it's not because it's something inherently wrong, like, or kind of misleading from Meta. It's that Meta's going to do everything it can to satisfy that one thing that you asked for. Meta doesn't know you want sales. Meta thinks you just want traffic. So it's going to get you that traffic. It's going to find weaknesses and placements, people who click on everything. It could be accidental clicks and bots before they know it is, right? But all they know is lots of clicks are happening. Let's send that so they're getting these results. So a point with saying that is, like, it's not that you're going to get a lot of this bad, low quality stuff always. It's that if you actually want a sale, optimize for that sale, right? Or if you want the conversion lead, someone who actually who started out as a lead who ended up buying, optimize for the conversion lead, because that's what the algorithm is measuring.
Right.
They don't care about anything else. The algorithm don't care about anything else other than getting you as many of that one thing at the lowest cost. So I think when people understand that, not only strategies should they become clearer, but the weaknesses in that should be start to become obvious too. So any of that top of the funnel stuff where it's like, why do I get so much low quality engagement when I optimize for a through play or for a link click or just for engagement? That's why. It's nothing. Facebook doesn't have this tranche of bots that it goes to automatically or anything. It's just that it's looking for how is it going to send you that thing that you asked for, and it will. But be aware of the weaknesses in that too.
Right. Yeah. It's easy for advertisers to be able to, like, okay, cool. The thing I want to see is website traffic for you guys. Does that sound smart? Great. Now here's a line graph in your Google Analytics of more website traffic. We're doing our job. Right. When actually wanting to see like event tracking within the website of those soft conversions and those hard conversions of time on the website and form fills and click to calls and all the things that actually, make an impact for the business that we're advertising for.
There are actually 2 issues with this too. First of all, Meta ad reps, actually, I hear it all the time. They recommend people use traffic campaigns, which is the biggest freaking waste of money. Because it does exactly what I just said. It's just going to send you a whole bunch of traffic that doesn't do anything. I mean, unless you're lucky. But you probably get a whole bunch of junk, especially if you leave it as all placements, which Meta wants you to do. You're going to have weaknesses in like audience network and all that stuff. That's the first thing that's insane to me. that they recommend it. Second of all, is like, why isn't there a way to optimize, a built-in way to optimize for quality traffic, for quality engagement?
Yeah.
How many, we would love that.
Do you want traffic or do you want quality traffic? You're going to spend more money, but we're going to go after people who tend to spend more time on a site and tend to not click ads unless they're more serious, instead of an 87-year-old crazy person or whoever it is that's just clicking ads.
Right. And there's a roundabout way to do it, which I've been doing for the last several years, which is with custom events. And so I have like scroll depth and time spent and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the problem is, as a custom event, I don't know how much, because it's not a standard event. So Meta doesn't have that same data for these people who spend a lot of time from other advertisers, because they're not using the same events that I am, that you can use that kind of global data with a standard event to find people who purchase or become leads or whatever. So they need that kind of thing to be a standard event.
I feel like they have it at their fingertips too, but that's a whole different level of like sophistication in the advertiser's hands to set up.
Why do they not do it? We're kind of moving away from that. But it's like, it would be so simple. Like, you don't have to make it too complicated. It's like, do you want to optimize for volume of traffic or quality of traffic, knowing that you'll be paying more, per link click? I think a lot of people are going to be choosing that quality of traffic. And again, it could even be stuff like, and I know we're way beyond this ever happening, but in terms of types of engagement, the fact that the through play is the deepest we can optimize for on a video view, and a through play is 15 seconds or the whole video, which is dumb. It's 15 seconds, right? So like, if you've got a minute-long video, I want people who are going to watch at least 50 seconds of that thing. Like, why can't I optimize for that? And so instead, you end up getting a whole bunch of people who watch 15 seconds because that's what you optimize for.
Yeah, then you can go into the reporting and look at how many people actually watched it for a longer amount of time. But you can't identify them and start to put them into a different category and start to advertise to them. But it's like, okay, if they watch 15 seconds, I'm going to assume they're going to move down the funnel for me.
That's the problem, the assumption. Because once again, there's weaknesses in the algorithm and placements where you are forced to watch 15 seconds because of the placement. Like, an example would be audience network rewarded video, where apps monetize themselves. So with audience network, you have a video that you can watch. That if you watch it to the end, you'll get virtual currency or something else that you can use in that app. These people don't care about that video. They're just trying to get that horseshoe or whatever the hell they're trying to get from that, watching that video with that app. And so that's like one of the things I started seeing. Like, if you're able to break down your results by placement, if something ever seems too good to be true, that's always the trigger, right? Like, I'm getting a ton of traffic, or it's really cheap, or I'm getting a ton of through plays, it's really cheap. Why is that? Usually, if you break it down by placement, what you'll find is there's one placement that you're getting all these actions at. Why is that happening in that one placement? It's usually because of some sort of weakness there that explains the volume. But when you realize how it works, you're like, oh, so those people don't actually care. Like, I thought that meant that they cared about the video, but it doesn't mean that at all. And that just throws everything off.
Yeah. And then to have somebody that's on the advertising side that's actually digging through the placements and looking at that kind of stuff to say, hey, here's a red flag. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's, noteworthy that this one placement's crushing it.
Well, and that's also the issue now, is that there's certain versions of Ads Manager now where Meta makes it so hard to customize placements. Yeah. That it's to the point where it's pretty clear the goal is to eventually prevent you from customizing placements at all. And look, if you're optimizing for any type of conversion, that's fine. Like, there's really no reason to remove placements for conversion. But if they're going to force things like all placements for every type of optimization, they need to fix the optimization for top of the funnel that we've just been talking about first, so those weaknesses don't happen. So they're like, little things like that drive me crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's people like me that are just saying, I just want to run these old used cars on Facebook Marketplace. Right. And I want to make it kind of look like an organic listing too. and have it stay on Facebook, like the on Facebook destination ad, because I'm set up with messenger chat bots and everything, and just I want to pull people through. And now they make me do it in the newsfeed and on Marketplace too. I'm like, okay, I'll take my chances, knowing maybe 20% will fall just into Marketplace, and we'll see how the newsfeed does.
Yeah, there's little things like that where, like, if this were 5-6 years ago, like, hey, maybe they'll let us customize how much we're paying per placement or something. But that's never gonna happen now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I just was like the first person advertising for dealers really on Facebook, and the owner wasn't on it, the general manager wasn't on Facebook, but their wife was. And so I'd upload a list of a bunch of people, 100 people, and then one of them was the owner's wife, and then I just advertised to them with their own ads. And so she'd be sitting in bed and be like, hey honey, here's you saying that you're number one in the market with certified pre-owned video vehicles.
That's funny.
Yeah. Man, I'll wrap this up soon. I realize we've been talking for almost an hour now.
Right.
Any thoughts on, let me see, my team sent me a lot of stuff. I'm like, hey, I'm talking to Jon Loomer today. What should I talk about? And they're like, because they have, we're constantly having like chats between ourselves and what's coming out new. What can we test out? What can we be the first to market at with doing? If everybody follows you for kind of testing out new products, who do you follow? Where do you get your info?
Well, it's funny, like Meta is making things pretty hard. Well, first of all, I follow all of Meta's official accounts, right? So I have a Feedly where I subscribe to all their official blogs and stuff, and so any kind of new announcement will jump in there. Matt Navarra is usually a good person to follow. Brian Vanderhalen on LinkedIn, at least. He's in a few places, but I think that's where he has his biggest audience. Because he and I are always trying to battle who's first to talk about something. He beats me sometimes. But beyond that, so much of it is just firsthand experience or people in my community sharing it and say, hey, what is this? Because as you know, one of the issues is it seems like no two people have the same ads manager. Like, there's constantly different things being tested, different formats and whatnot. So what does it mean that I see it this way? Does it mean this is a change, or is it just some crazy test that I have, that I'm part of? So that's always a difficult thing to sort out. Now that Meta got rid of their feed of ads manager updates, it's kind of impossible to know, because that was one of my primary ways of finding out what officially changed. And is this just part of some crazy test? But so yeah, a lot of it's just hands-on and people sharing it with me.
All right, next question is one thing that we as advertisers, we always want to kind of get in and fine-tune things and optimize things and narrow the age demographics and all these things that reset the learning phase. And I'm always arguing with like our team about keeping these specific campaigns running or these ad sets running, because Facebook's continually learning on who's doing those events that we're trying to track on the website. Stop trying to change anything. Where are you on the soft and the hard learning phases, and how important it is to let ads go through those learning phases?
This is a kind of a deeper question too, just about like how much should you even refine, right? Because I was one of those people who would have like definitely selected just certain ages and all that kind of stuff, and adding interests and just being as detailed and specific as possible. To a point, not first of all, some of that's more of a suggestion these days than actual hard targeting. But like, try not to restrict the algorithm, try not to interrupt the algorithm, which is kind of what you're getting at there with the learning phase too, right? So if you get something to work, there's no reason to make any changes, first of all, because it's going to restart learning. Now, restart learning isn't necessarily the end of the world. It could refine itself and get back to where you were, but it means it's less stable, and you can end up with a few days where your results aren't great again, just to get back to where you were. So that's the first thing. But I mean, I think in general, there's a certain level of trusting the algorithm these days. that
Yeah.
I don't think existed before, especially if you're out. Again, we talked about all the weaknesses, but really that's all top of the funnel stuff. If you're optimizing for a purchase or a lead, a conversion lead or something like that, the way we've all been in the past, like we'll break it down like, oh, certain placements aren't performing very well. Let's turn off that placement. Or a certain age group is doing really well. It's just women who are mainly women who are buying, but at a cheaper price. Let's turn off men. That all sounds reasonable until you do it. And then then all of a sudden your results go out the window. And part of it's because you still needed the availability of some of those other people in your audience to keep your prices down. Or look, there might have been a few people that fell outside of that range that may have been your ideal audience that Meta detected and was able to go after. So the more you try to restrict it and force it to do something, the higher your costs go. So like, look, you might even succeed at increasing your conversion rate, for example, by restricting the algorithm and saying, oh, it's just this group of people. It's just focus in these placements, focus on them. But your CPMs are going to triple maybe, right? So it doesn't even matter because your costs overall go up.
So like, you're running ads right now for yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're doing remarketing, and then you're doing people that are in your CRM, and then you're doing, or your email database. Well, and
it's complicated. So I'm taking a different approach to remarketing now because first of all, I'm trying to embrace Advantage Plus audience, right?
Yeah.
So I see remarketing falling in two different categories. I mean, some advertisers, if you listen to them, will say you're crazy for even remarketing anymore. It's stupid because the algorithm starts with your remarketing audience anyway. Why are you even bothering with this? I'm not in that camp, but this is where what I do is like with Advantage Plus audience, where you provide suggestions. That's when I would provide like a general remarketing audience. When I say that, it's like, these aren't people necessarily that I'm going to give them a very special, unique message because they performed a certain action. These are people who I just feel like are most likely to perform the action that I want because they're within this group.
Right.
So like all my website visitors, or it could even be like, my one of those like top 25% website visitors or something like that. Start with that, but that's just a targeting suggestion. And then it can go broader beyond that. The primary thing that I run ads for is leads, where it's to warm/cold audiences. I think it's partly because of my style. It's like, I'm not a hard sales person, that it's usually not best for my business to have someone who spots me for the first time as an ad and buys from me without really knowing my style and how I do things and what to expect. Because most people have this vision of what meta marketing strategies, guaranteed hacks, all that kind of stuff. You see all that stuff and they expect that. And then they get my kind of, it depends response to things. And,
yeah, it's nuanced. It's like
nuanced, right?
Yeah.
So then they're like, oh, what is this? So I'd rather have people who are deeper into my funnel who actually buy from me. So starts with, I want to add them as a lead first. I do deep remarketing on like, okay, you've been to the product landing page for my membership. There's like a 30-day window on that one. I'll show you different videos trying to get you through the door, right? But that's like super small audience. Beyond that, what has kind of, a few things I've left for my strategy because of the way everything evolved. I used to do a lot of traffic type campaigns, but not the way we were talking about, like the custom events one, like optimized to send traffic, because the blog is a big part of my business, right? So I want quality. It's just, things are so much more expensive now than they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, that just driving traffic, even if it's quality traffic, isn't necessarily worth the money in a lot of cases. Like if I'm spending more than $1 to get a quality, visitor, and I'm also not a hard salesperson, so just being a quality visitor doesn't mean a whole lot, right? like, is that useful to me? Whereas back in the day, I could get on pennies on a dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely changed. I used to do a lot of those evergreen campaigns where I'd like send you like 10 different ads through this funnel from a very refined group of people, which was really powerful because it was so cheap. And now it's just like, it's so expensive to do little things like that. So I've had to adjust as well.
Yeah, and all the heavy lifting of creating all of that stuff and updating all of that stuff.
So it was fun though, and that's part of the issue I think a lot of advertisers have is like we feel valuable with all that heavy lifting. And
let me tap dance for you and show you what I know.
Exactly. And now Meta's saying, no, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Just trust the algorithm. And then, a lot of people take offense to that. Yeah.
So for your cold targeting with your ads, are you just reaching out to a broad audience and letting Facebook figure it out? Or are you saying people that are interested in digital marketing, if that's still possible? I'm asking for my own ads.
So that's typically, that's typically where I'm using that broad remarketing as a targeting suggestion, right? So it's a Vantage Post audience. That's just like me. And I'm also going back and forth and experimenting with not using a suggestion at all. Cause I'm like, look, it's already got my pixel data and all that stuff. It probably starts there anyway. It's the lack of transparency these days to actually prove any of these things it's just impossible though. So it's just a lot of trial and error. But yeah, I go back and forth between no suggestions and providing suggestions. And these are usually lead ads that I'm running these days for the cold stuff.
Same.
Yeah.
Right. And as a reward, people get signed up for your email newsletter, or they get
they're like 5 different things that you can opt in for. Yeah. So, and that's actually also one thing I'm experimenting with that I didn't used to do is like, it's just one ad set with 5 different lead generation things. Right. Whereas normally I would create a different ad set for each one. But the way I see that is like,
you've had 5 ad sets in one campaign.
No, I would before. Like now it's just the one.
Right.
But if you've already registered for any of these things, you're excluded. And then there are 5 different lead ads, one for each different thing, and kind of let the algorithm sort out. Like,
does it seem to be working well? Not a lot of duplication or cannibalizing the budget with what's working well.
I mean, it shouldn't cannibalize anything. It's just like it's usually going to focus on one primary lead gen thing at a time, right? And if there's ever a point where I'm like, okay, I'd rather focus on this other thing, I'll just turn that one thing off and see what it prefers after that. So I try. I know there's a lot people love micromanaging this stuff and like, oh, which creative's working and this and that. Like, just run those are doing really well. Turn off those other. I mostly just let it run. Like if that's how I can get the best cost per lead, and people like, I was kind of disappointed because the thing that people were signing up for was this like beginners thing. And like, I don't really love catering to beginners, but hey, that's what they were signing up for. So I let it roll for a while.
They start as beginners, and at some point they're in the Power Hitters Club, and then you're on their podcast.
Exactly. 12 years later,
yeah. I could keep going, man, but I'll let you jump off. And John, I appreciate what you do for our industry. Like it makes a lot of things possible for us, and it gives us a lot to talk about and have another voice in the room besides us looking at each other and being like, what do you want to do? Let's test this. Let's test that. What do you guys think is smart? Now we've got, a third party who comes in that was the lead sled dog and is. So where can people follow you? And you got a presentation coming up.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the easiest thing is jonloomer.com because basically everything goes there. Right. So 2 blog posts a week. All of my video, I've also got a custom post type for my videos now. So anything that's published as a video every day is also published to my website. And there's even kind of like a short, almost like blog post that goes with it. So it's a really good place. You can subscribe to my newsletter there to get updated on all that stuff when it happens. So jonloomer.com/newsletter. If you are active on any of those social channels, I'm at Jon Loomer almost everywhere. My first place I set up was my Facebook page. And because back then, like I saw Mari Smith and Amy Porterfield, and they had a Facebook page and Facebook profile. They were named the same thing. I'm like, that's confusing. I don't know which one's which. So I named my Facebook page Jon Loomer Digital. So it's been that way ever since. So
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
I'm
those
friends
are the
with
best.
you. I wanted to follow you.
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you accidentally you're friends. I'm like, oh, they don't know
Exactly.
who I am. Like, I just wanted to
Yeah,
follow your page.
exactly. But so yeah, I'm trying to get out there more, get on more podcasts, public speaking again. I'm speaking at Social Media Marketing World for the first time in February in San Diego. First time in 4 years in February. So that'll be fun.
Props. And so
Thanks.
at the very least, go to jonloomer.com and you can fall into Jon Loomer's remarketing. And so he'll start advertising to you. Then he'll show you what to do from that point.
In a very soft sales way.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's you are like when you accidentally figure out you're in marketing, it's because you're teaching people. That's what it is. It's the consultative selling.
That's right. That's right.
Cool. All right, my friend. Well, I'm going to stop recording now.
All right. Thanks, man.